Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is Hashem Abu Serhan. I'm very happy today to provide a talk about the common research study designs. I don't have any disclosures to declare, and I would like to thank Arab Eye Academy, especially Dr. Khalid, Dr. Rami Awad, who invited me to join the experts panelists in ESAF Annual Forum and the Manhur Eye Center. I'm very thankful, very grateful, and thank you for this chance. The objectives of this short seminar is to provide an overview of different types of study design and to understand the strengths and limitations of each study, each type of study design, and also to understand the key consideration designing a study, including the randomization, the matching, and blinding. According to the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force, the clinical evidence rating system divided into mainly three levels of evidence, and the level 2 also divided into three levels. So the level 1 evidence is the randomized control trial, which is the gold standard and the most rigorous. And the level 2-1 is the control trials, however, without randomization. And then level 2 is the evidence from cohort and case control studies, followed by the multiple time series studies. Then the level 3 is the descriptive studies, like for example the cross-sectional studies. So the types of the study design, you look mainly for the exposure. Did the investigator assign exposure? If yes, it's become experimental, and it will be like the researchers is trying to intervene to change the reality, then observe what happens, and divide into randomized and non-randomized. However, if the investigator didn't assign an exposure, it will be like an observation study. The researchers want only to observe the subjects without any effort to try to change the subjects. Regarding the observational studies, where the researcher is trying just to observe the subject, it has been divided into two, depending on the comparison group. If you don't have any, the comparison group is just like a descriptive study. For example, case report. You're just describing a case. If you have a comparison group, it becomes like analytical study, which used to test a hypothesis from the researcher, and divide three main studies, which is the cross-sectional study, which is like a survey snapshot study, and the cohort studies, which is mainly the prospective studies, and the case control studies, the retrospective studies, and we'll come across all these three designs. The cross-sectional survey, which is the first type of the observational studies, carry out at one point in time in order to determine a link between an exposure and disease, providing a snapshot of the frequency and the characteristics of disease in a population. For example, what is the prevalence of diabetes in the community? Can we compare people with or without diabetes in terms of their characteristics, for example, weight, blood pressure, and that like, and can we connect these characteristics to the diabetes? And however, the problem that you cannot be sure which comes first, is it the diabetes or the characteristic, like the weight problem. So this design is very weak for drawing conclusion about causes. The process of cross-sectional surveys, they are cheap, simple, and they are ethically safe. However, the cons, that they establish association at most. However, they don't establish causality. So you can say that overweight is associated with diabetes, but you cannot conclude that overweight is leading to diabetes, is the cause of diabetes. And there is always susceptibility to recall bias. Recall bias where the subjects, the participants, depend on their memory in order to participate. So there is always a bias of their ability to recall the real information. And there is always confounders that may be unequally distributed. These confounders are factors outside the researcher's scope of view that can affect the results of the study. For example, the type of food which patients eat and the related diabetes. The researcher is looking for the weight and the diabetes, but he's not looking for the types of food. Maybe this type of food can affect the results. So this is considered as a confounder. The cohort study, the second type of the studies, these are like survey, however they extend over time. So we call longitudinal or prospective studies. You begin with exposure and follow for disease incidence. So basically, you begin with a sample of people who don't have the disease at entry and you take the baseline measurements. Then you follow them over time to collect the detailed information. And you look to see whether people develop the disease, were more exposed to particular factor than those who don't. So you allow you to study the changes over time and to establish the time sequence in which times occur. For example, you want to see whether smoking lead to lung cancer. You collect information on how many packs each subject smokes weekly over a long time, and then you identify people who develops lung cancer. So you compare the incidence of cancer among those who have smoked more than a predetermined amount to the incidence in those who haven't. And one of the most popular cohort studies is from Framingham Heart Study, which established the key risk factors for developing coronary artery disease, for example, the blood pressure, the diabetes, the metabolic syndrome, and these things. The pros of the cohort studies, they are ethically safe. The subjects can be matched at baseline, so you can match the characteristics of each subject, and you can establish timing of event. You can see which one leads to the other one. And there is also ability to standardize the eligibility criteria and the exposure outcome assessments. However, the cons that the exposure may be linked to a hidden confounder, as we said, explained previously. Sometimes the blind is very difficult and there is no randomization. So if there is randomization, it will be a randomized controlled trial, not cohort study. Okay, and also it's problematic for rare diseases because you need large sample size and you need long follow-up. So for rare diseases, a little bit problematic. The case control studies, the third type of observation studies, it's retrospective study that works the opposite way to cohort study. You begin at the end with the disease and then you work backward to see for any possible causes. For example, you identify a group of patients with lung cancer and control a group who don't have. Okay, after matching each case and control for a variety of general factors. Then you collect the info on their smoking habit, dating back as far as you can manage, and the testing hypothesis would be that smoking is significantly heavier in the cancer group than the control. The pros of the case control studies, they are quick, they are cheap. However, the results are a little bit less reliable than cohort studies. And the only feasible method for very rare diseases, because you will start with the end. So you will start with the patients with very rare disorders, then you will go back. So it's the only feasible method for very rare disorders. And also fewer subjects needed than cross-sectional studies. The cons, the disadvantage is that you rely on recall or records in order to determine the exposure status. And sometimes there will be confounders between the groups. So you need to match the characteristic as possible as you can. Also, the selection control group is a little bit difficult. Who's the appropriate control in your study? For example, if you have very rare disease, who's the control group? Sometimes the selection of the control group is a little bit problematic. And there is also potential bias like recall bias and selection bias. Now we come to the experimental study, the second arm, where the researchers intervene, try to change the subject by intervention. So if there is random allocation, so if the researchers randomly assign an exposure to this subject of a group, it's called randomized controlled trial, RCT, which is level 1 of evidence depending on the US Preventive Services task. However, if you don't have a randomization allocation, If you don't have a randomization, it will be non-randomized control trial, which is called a quasi-experimental design. The randomized control trial is the best and the normally used in the testing new drugs and new treatments, where you have a sample of patients with the condition and who meet other selection criteria are randomly allocated in order to reduce the selection and allocation bias to receive either the experimental treatment or the control treatments. Commonly, the control treatment will be the standard treatment of care for that condition. And the random allocation is completely blinded for the participants and also for the researchers in order to reduce performance bias. Then this experimental and control group are prospectively followed for a set of time, and then you measure certain factors in order to indicate the outcomes in each group. The pros: there is unbiased distribution of potential confounders. There is blinding. There is randomization, which facilitates the statistical analysis. The cons: they are expensive. They need time. They need money. Also, there is volunteering biases. Sometimes patients will volunteer to the study, and these patients that volunteer will be more like, for example, severe diseases or more bad outcomes. So sometimes there will be volunteer bias, and they are sometimes ethically problematic. The other type of the study where you don't have a randomization is called quasi-experimental design trial. It falls between the observational cohort and experimental study. There is intervention, but they are often completely planned ahead before conducting the research. And typically random allocation is not involved, as we said, where the experimental doesn't decide to whom the experimental treatment would be applied. And the exposed and unexposed are followed forward in time to ascertain the frequency of the pre-specified outcomes. However, the main drawback of this type of study design is the selection bias. These are my references. And I would like to provide an opportunity through a research platform through Arab Eye Academy. For any one of you is interested in research and doing meta-analysis, I offer a complete opportunity for him or for her through Arab Eye Academy. Either you contact Arab Eye Academy to provide you my contact info, or you join my Facebook group, Ophthalmology Research Interest Group, or you can contact me on my social media accounts like Instagram. And I would like to thank you again for this great chance and great invite to join these expert panelists, and to thank again Arab Eye Academy. And I wish for this meeting to be very, very successful. Thank you all.